Nature's been so healing to me my whole life. And even post-accident, every time I go out into the wild, I just get something so deep. And so we want to share that. We want to share beyond like carrying your 10 essentials, but also what it means to get outside and feel that energy and really become part of it.
Today's guest is Jaime Purinton, co-founder of Hike It Off Clothing and Magazine. Jaime is an avid hiker who believes in the healing magic of nature. She founded Hike It Off while in recovery after a traumatic injury she suffered while hiking. Since then, she's been on a mission to share the good vibe and healing energy that hiking has to offer and to inspire deep-rooted connections to the outdoors. So let's get into it. I'm your host, Liz Landeen, and this is The Outdoor Entrepreneur. Hey, Jaime, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I am really excited to have you on today. I love kind of kicking things off maybe a little bit lighter before we jump into all the business entrepreneur stuff. I would love to hear from you first and foremost about getting outdoors. What does getting outdoors look like for you? What are your favorite activities outdoors that kind of light you up right now?
Well, I'm 100% a hiker. So as much as I love getting outdoors, most of the time it's just me getting out with my own 2 feet, walking down the trail. I'm really lucky where I live. I'm able to walk from my house to this amazing preserve where there's a river and oak trees. I'm able to get out a lot more than if I didn't live next to this place. So that just involves literally me walking out my front door and walking down there. I bring my dogs with me. We put our feet in the water. We just absorb that energy and it's just amazing.
That sounds incredible, especially to have such easy access to it. I feel like it's, so much more motivating when you don't have to like get in a car and drive a long distance. So that's great. I want to go back and have you kind of walk us through. I know it was June 4th. So let's go back to June 4th of 2014. As I understand it, you and your husband were out for a hike, celebrating your birthday. Can you share with our listeners how this day started and the events that kind of unfolded throughout the day?
Yeah, so it was my birthday. Actually, my original plan was to go hang out. I have a horse. He's my other soulmate. And so my original plan was to ride my horse. I get to spend limited time with him. So I was like, what a perfect birthday. But it happened to, a heat wave came in. So I wasn't able to do that. And we just decided we're just going to walk down to the trail and go hang out by the river. I had a full backpack full of like food and some champagne. And, we had this little afternoon planned. I was training for a backpacking trip in the Sierra. And so I was like, I'm going to carry all the weight. And I noticed my dogs were kind of acting up and I wasn't paying attention to really where I was walking. And I slipped and I put my foot down to catch myself and broke my ankle. But my brain, for whatever reason, just didn't register it as a broken ankle, even though I heard it crack and it was obvious it was broken. And I put my foot down again to catch myself. But when I did that, I shattered all 3 bones and dislocated my ankle. So at that point, I cried out mercy and fell on the ground. Luckily, I had that backpack. So the backpack actually supported my fall. So I didn't hit any other parts of my body, yelled at my husband to call 911. I knew it was pretty bad just based on the way my foot looked because it was not straight. I barely remember past that point because the pain was really bad. So I was kind of in and out of consciousness. And the next thing I remember after laying on the ground was like firemen standing around me and they gave me morphine on the trail just because they knew how horrific the injury was. They rescued me, took me off the trail, took me right to the emergency room, and they kind of misdiagnosed me. They didn't really have all the equipment that they needed. I live in a pretty small town, and at the time, we don't even have an emergency room now, but at the time we did. And they basically wrapped up my ankle, sent me home with some pain pills and said, go to Kaiser on Monday. They'll tell you what to do. I suffered over that weekend really bad with really swollen ankle. I ended up my bones were cracked and they were pushing up against my skin, almost coming through. So they called them fracture blisters. And so it was just trauma on the skin. And so by the time I had made it into Kaiser, it was pretty bad. And they couldn't believe that I had spent all weekend like that. So they diagnosed me with 3 shattered bones and a dislocated ankle at that point. I had ended up having 2 surgeries and a really long recovery. So it was a traumatic injury. They told me that they only see injuries like that in bad car accidents, and they had no idea how I'd done it on the trail. At the time, I was like, why is this happening to me? But yeah, so that's kind of what happened that day. And then, of course, there was, that was like the easy part, I feel like, was, the initial injury. Nobody prepares you for what recovery looks like. And if you haven't done intensive recovery like that, and nobody tells you what that involves, there's a huge learning curve and a lot of emotions involved with that.
How long did the recovery take you?
I ended up having 2 surgeries. I was in a wheelchair for just over 2 months. And then I was on crutches for about 6 months. And then I limped for about another 6 months. So really recovery was, I would say, about a year. I will never fully recover. I have long-lasting injuries from it. So I have severe arthritis. When I shattered my ankle, it blew out all my cartilage. So it's just bone on bone. And there's a lot of scar tissue. My surgeon promises me that the technology that they are coming out with, I'm going to have a new ankle within 5 to 10 years. So we're just kind of waiting for that and hoping that, the arthritis doesn't progress. So
that's so fascinating to think about the technology we don't even have yet, but
right.
It's coming, right? We know it's going to be here and that there's new possibilities that might open up to you down the road.
Right. The technology's here for knees right now, but not for ankles. So I don't know what the process is. Approved it for ankles, I guess, is what it would be. But he says, luckily, I'm young enough to where, like, in 15 years, I'm going to be 100% back, is what he's saying, and I'll have a brand new ankle. So we'll see. But
yeah.
Until then, I'm just adapting and doing my best.
Yeah. Well, you're obviously doing your best. I know you're keeping busy. I know you're doing lots of things. And I guess I would be curious to know kind of how you got from there, right? From this accident and recovery and that taking quite a long time frame to starting a business, right? So how was your business, Hike It Off, magazine and clothing? How was that business born? And like, why was it created post-accident? What's the background to your company?
Well, when I went in for my second surgery, my surgeon sat down with me before and kind of went over the outcome and what he thought, he could do for me. He basically at that point told me that I would never hike again and that I would walk with a limp for the rest of my life. He said that most likely they would have to fuse my ankle. So when he told me that, I thought my life was over because hiking was my life. It is my life. And without that, like, I just couldn't imagine me staying sane, honestly, because hiking is such a healing activity for me. So when I came out of surgery, was in recovery, I was like, I'm not going to accept that. I don't accept that. And my husband had always joked back and forth, we should start a hiking company and like come up with these really funny shirts. Well, I think I had just enough drugs in me. And one day was like, I'm just going to start this business. Like, we've been talking about it. I'm just going to do it. I'm in recovery. I'm at home 24/7. Like, I couldn't move and it was the perfect time. So I literally jumped in and just started it and built the website and, got our LLC, started some social media. We dumped a bunch of our savings into coming out with our first line because it's really costly to come up with a bunch of designs and all of that. And we just went for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love hearing stories like this where it's just really incredible that you were able to find a way to kind of turn your passion for the outdoors into a business, which was, created in the wake of something tragic that happened to you. But it's such an inspiring story and one that reminds us that inspiration can truly strike us anywhere, right? Life doesn't always go as planned. And sometimes that means whatever, maybe the universe has something else planned for you, something bigger and better that we never even realized. So I think it's such an incredible story on how this business was born. But I'm also wondering, so I know you said you and your husband had joked about kind of starting a t-shirt business in the past, but wanted to be an entrepreneur? Had you wanted to own your own business in the past? Or was this something maybe that just, happened because of this accident? Had it not really been in the cards before?
Yeah, I was born an entrepreneur. I was probably 6 or 7, and I had that awareness of when I grow older, I don't have to work for somebody. I can do my own thing. I can, and whatever that meant to my 6 or 7-year-old mind, I think I was like, dreaming about like probably selling lemonade or something. I don't know. But that was always a really strong drive for me. My husband and I, in the past, we did own a heating and air conditioning company together. So we had, lived the entrepreneur life together. We knew we could do it. That was not either one of our passions at all. And so we just couldn't do it anymore because it just wasn't fulfilling. And I didn't want to live the rest of my life, scheduling heaters being fixed. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. So we did have that background. And I feel like that, for me, that calling for sure, for my whole life.
Yeah. Okay. So you have this entrepreneurial spirit and you have experience with it. And then you started Hike It Off. So tell us more about Hike It Off, the magazine, the clothing line. What is it? Give us some details.
Right now we have a clothing line. It's t-shirts, hats. We just launched our first, it's a windbreaker. So it's a really nice light windbreaker. We also founded a magazine. So it's a digital magazine. It's published 4 times a year. We have 6 to 8 writers that write for us. They're all incredible. The magazine is really evolving. It first started geared towards just day hiking and kind of getting beginners out onto the trail and giving them a resource on how to do that. And it's really hard for us to not be authentic. And authenticity to me is hiking, but it's also, spirituality and healing, because nature's been so healing to me my whole life. And even post-accident, every time I go out into the wild, I just get something so deep. And so we want to share that. We want to share beyond like carrying your 10 essentials, but also, what it means to get outside and feel that energy and really become part of it.
We're going to take a quick break, but I can't wait to learn more from our guest about how they live and love the outdoor entrepreneur life. You know how much I love making time for the things that bring me joy. It's literally a key reason why I created this podcast. It's also why I'm so passionate about doing things that make life easier and allow me to feel more organized, less scattered, and more in control of my time. Come on, doesn't that sound amazing? Well, one way I do that is by getting crystal clear on what I want and mapping out a solid plan of action to make it happen. And I love teaching this simple system to others. Whether you're an experienced entrepreneur or an aspiring one, I help people sort through all the shiny things and mental clutter to get massively clear to make it all happen. So if you're ready to move from dreaming into doing and doing it with ease and flow and organization, then I got you. Go to LizLandeen.com as soon as this podcast ends to check out my services page, sign up for my monthly newsletter, or you can schedule a free 30-minute clarity call with me. And as a bonus, all podcast listeners receive a special 10% off if you use discount code OUTDOORS at checkout. All right, now let's get back into the episode. I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into your mission statement. It reads, to share the vibe and healing energy of hiking and inspire deep-rooted connections to the outdoors. And as you mentioned, it sounds like there's this more spiritual component that you're trying to get people to connect with. It's not just, get outdoors. It's a little bit deeper than that. So maybe talk a little bit more about that. What connection do you see or want others to see between spirituality and hiking?
Yeah, to be fully transparent, a lot of our goal is getting people to connect to nature. And that to me is the spiritual connection, because we are nature. We are part of this, wild that we have become so disconnected from with modern society. And so many of us suffer because we don't have that connection anymore. Like I envision that connection turning into conservation, people becoming really excited about getting back out there and understanding that open land is scarce, especially I live in Southern California. So, there's land that's just being constantly developed down here, and our trails are overrun with people because we just don't have enough open space. So it's all works together. I mean, we're all connected. We're connected with each other. We're connected with the wild, and that connection hopefully will, inspire people to become involved and take action and conserve land. But the ultimate goal is to people to feel that connection, but take it to the next level.
Yeah, I love that. Just kind of the connection with spirituality and healing, as you mentioned previously, that hiking can provide people. But I also love that your company seems to be focused too on kind of the philanthropic side of things. So I know that you donate a portion of your profits to various organizations. Why did you choose those organizations to partner up with?
Yeah, it's funny. My husband is always like, if we ever become millionaires, I'm just going to give it all away. Like, we both believe that a big part of happiness comes from serving. And so whether that means, providing financially, or it means volunteering in person, whatever that means, we have found so much happiness in that. And it really helps us to be whole people, I believe. Like, before we did that, like, there was pieces that were missing. And I feel like volunteering, providing financial support, all of that has made us more whole people, if that makes any sense. But our main organization that we support is Sail Ranch Animal Sanctuary. So they're a farm animal sanctuary, and they basically provide sanctuary for animals, farmed animals that have been discarded by our food industry. So it's farmed animals that they're very sick, and without intervention, they would perish 100%. So a lot of them have medical issues. They have major traumas. They've been through a lot of abuse. Elderly horses that, maybe have provided. We have horse racing horses. We have ex-rodeo horses. So we bring them to the ranch and we heal them. And then in turn, people get to come out. So at-risk youth get to come out and experience these animals and their energy. And the thing about animals is they live in the present moment. So they may have these traumas, but in the present moment, they're accepting, they're forgiving, they allow so much that us as people can learn from. And these kids that have been through, the foster system or have not had a great childhood can come and see that these animals that have been abused and in situations similar to them have healed. And the connection is just so beautiful. I have goosebumps just like talking about this, because it really is, when you see it in person, it's undeniable and it's amazing. The other organization that we support is Leave No Trace. We believe in Leave No Trace principles. We preach them. We try to educate as much as possible. We just love wild being wild. Nature should be left as raw and natural as possible, we believe. And so we want to, educate people in a really helpful and compassionate way as to how that can happen.
Yeah, that's incredible that you guys are involved with both those organizations and supporting them. We'll be sure to put links in the show notes to both of those organizations. If people want to learn more, they can do that. But I love that. That's really incredible, Jaime. Thanks for sharing about those organizations. I also noticed on your website that you have a program people can sign up for called I Am the Wild. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is, how it works?
Yeah, I Am the Wild was born in quarantine. So I've always understood, that disconnect between people and the wild. And there's a fear there. I mean, I have friends that are afraid to just go on a hike because they're so disconnected. It's not normal to them. So I Am the Wild it's a 30-day experience that you can sign up for, and you basically get 30 days worth of activities that reconnect you to the wild. So activities include things like grounding, like just getting outside and putting your feet on the earth, or, submerging yourself in water if you have a river. I mean, that just getting in water is, that energy is so amazing. And it just will turn your whole energy that you're feeling around. It involves sitting next to a tree and just listening to see, can you understand anything that tree is trying to tell you? It also includes journaling. I think journaling is really important to, once you have an experience and you're able to reflect on that, it kind of like solidifies that experience and it brings it a little bit closer. And it makes a little bit more meaning out of it too. It also includes some daily meditations, affirmations. it's kind of like the whole package. So if you're going out into the wild and you're a little apprehensive and you're looking for a way to do that, but without being super scary, that's kind of how this is programmed. So I think it's cool. We've had quite a few people do the program. A lot of people have said it's completely changed their lives. It's really intense. It's because it's a 30-day, every day you're doing an activity. It doesn't have to be done in 30 days, of course. I mean, it could take you a year if you want, but it's just really the intention is to reconnect you back to the wild and then ultimately yourself, because generally people that are disconnected from the wild are also disconnected from their higher self. It's just the way that we have been programmed and conditioned in our society. And connecting to the wild, because we are the wild, we all are nature, it reconnects us to ourselves too.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great way. You described that really beautifully, I think. And I completely agree. I have to say, when I am feeling disconnected, when I am feeling maybe some higher anxiety levels, more stressed, it's typically because I haven't been able to do the things that I really find joy in, which are getting outdoors and doing things outside in nature. Personally, I can feel that connection is there and really does help to alleviate stress and just all of that stuff that we know nature is good for in our lives. So I love that the challenge helps us to kind of maybe get back to that a little bit more. I'm going to check it out. I think I'm going to have to do the challenge. And we'll put that in the show notes as well. But I think the challenge, it sounds like a great place for people to start. I'd be curious to know if you have any advice for people that may be struggling to find the time to get outside more. Maybe they want to play, explore, adventure, whatever it is that brings them joy in the outdoors. Do you have any tips, tools, advice, anything you would give to somebody, or just, things you have personally found helpful as a way, to do all the things that need to be done in our life and our business, whatever it might be, but still be able to get outdoors and play and have fun?
Yeah, I think that for me, it boils down to prioritizing. So before my accident, I was like a chronic people pleaser. I didn't know how to tell people no. I was living an extremely stressful life. I was having panic attacks regularly. I didn't quite understand what it was. I just thought it was normal. I mean, everybody has anxiety. Everybody has, packed schedules. And then literally the universe gave me this gift, right, of this traumatic injury that I had to slow down. I could not do anything else. So what I learned most from that accident was I knew I couldn't go back to that life that I was living before. And I had to start prioritizing myself and my health and my sanity. And I don't compromise. So if I want to go hike, I make time for it. My husband and I joke around and we say, we're not rocket scientists. I'm not a brain surgeon. Nobody's going to die if I don't put a new product on until the afternoon. It was all my beliefs and conditioning that was to take precedence over myself. And so now it just doesn't happen. And, there are days that are packed and I might not have time. I get up early. I get up before the sunrise. And I know people are like, oh, wait, but I'm not a morning person. If you knew me personally and I told you I'm getting up before the sunrise, like people are like, who are you? Are you on drugs? Like you never get up early. And now I'm just like, I've completely flipped the script in my head and I sit and I am totally a morning person. There's nothing more beautiful or magical about watching the sunrise when you're on the trail. And so it's just that shift that I've made, because hiking to me, getting outside is that important. And so I think it just boils down to making it your priority and figuring out what you can shift in your life, whether it means getting up earlier. Maybe you're going to, get rid of something that you don't love doing. Maybe you're doing something for someone else that you don't want to do anymore. And it's okay to tell them, no, I can't do this because I need to prioritize myself. So now I understand that. And I practice that and I preach that. And it's really worked out very well.
Yeah. And to me, that sounds like we're talking about self-care in many ways, right? We're talking about the fact that these are things that bring you joy and peace and happiness in your life, and that you have to prioritize those things. That's not being selfish. Putting ourselves first is it's so important. We need to be happy and healthy to be able to give to others, and we can't give from an empty cup, all of that stuff. So to me, it sounds very much like, we're talking about self-care and how important that is to prioritize that for yourself. And that may look like for some people getting outside, going for a bike ride, going for a hike, whatever it is in the outdoors that somebody might enjoy doing.
Yeah. And those mornings when I get up and I'm tired and I just want to stay in bed and I make myself get up anyways, I've never one time been like, while I'm on the trail watching the sunrise, oh, I wish I would have stayed in bed. Like, even though when I was in bed, like it felt like such a chore to get up, and especially if it's cold and, but I've always come back just thinking like, gosh, that was such a perfect choice I made for myself. So I keep that in mind too, on those mornings where it's a little bit harder.
Yeah, that's great. So I'd love to hear from you. I always like knowing from my guests, I like to take this opportunity to find out where some of your favorite places are in the outdoors. What are your favorite outdoor locations? Like, do you have any recommendations on must see, must visit places?
So being in Southern California, I feel like I'm really lucky. We've got, the mountains, we have the beach, we have the desert, from my house within 2 hours, I can visit 2 hours or less. I can visit all of those. So we stay here a lot. I mean, in the summertime, we will go up to like the Sierra and do backpacking trips, that sort of thing. But my favorite places locally are Palomar Mountain State Park. So in Southern California, or in San Diego County, we have Palomar Mountain State Park, which when you get up there, it's only like, it's under 6,000 feet elevation. So it's not a huge mountain, but it feels like you're in the Sierra because there's, ponderosa pines, and it's so beautiful. So it's such a short drive for people that live here to go and like literally get into like the mountains. I also love Anza Borrego Desert State Park. It's amazing. And then obviously the Sierra. So anywhere in the Sierra, I love the Eastern Sierra, Thousand Island Lake. We did a backpacking trip there. I think it was about 3 years ago. And I cried the first time I saw it when we came over the pass and like the lake came into view. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And I couldn't control myself. I was like a blubbering, crying mess, and it was just because of that beauty. So those would be my three favorite for sure. So anywhere in the Sierra, Palomar Mountain State Park, and then Anza Borrego Desert State Park.
Those are great. I'm going to write those down. And the Sierra is it's like a bucket list item for me. I've just read so many books and heard so many stories and seen incredible pictures and photos. And it's definitely one place I have just got to get to. And I haven't yet, but I will. Okay. So as we start to wrap up, let's tell people where they can find you.
So we're actually launching our new website in 2 days now. So it's going to be hikeitofflife.com, and you'll be able to read the magazine there. You can buy clothing there. You can read our journal there. We do tons of gear reviews, all the above. So that will all be there. We're obviously on Instagram, Facebook, Hike It Off Official. So we're excited about the new website too. It's encompassing more of who we are as a company. So it's not just the hiking. We're going to expand into more of a lifestyle type brand.
Oh, I love that. And I love your magazine. I've looked at it. It's really a fantastic magazine. You have great content, great stories, really interesting. And
thank you.
And the clothing too. I just saw that hat you guys put out and some of the shirts and stuff. So yeah, I highly recommend people go check it out. So as we wrap up, as you know, I'm a strategy and action coach. So I created this podcast not just to talk and dream about all of these things, but to show people how they can combine an income producing job with their love for the outdoors and to see that it's possible, right? That everyday people, just like you, me, anybody can do it. And ultimately, I really want to inspire people to take massive action towards their own dreams, their own goals. So with that in mind, I'd love to close out with an outdoor action challenge. So what's one thing you want people to get out there and do, whether that's in pursuit of becoming an outdoor entrepreneur specifically, or it's just more general nature outside focused?
Yeah, well, since this is an entrepreneurial podcast, I think what I would recommend is finding community. So if you're able to find community and find some mentors that are able to help you along the path, it's life-changing. So I've had quite a few mentors that have helped. I mean, your group is so amazing. It's so awesome to be able to just post a question in there and get answers from people that's their profession, and they're so, generous with their time. But I think that is really important, is just building that community and finding people that can mentor you and help you along the way. So that would be the first action I would take for sure.
I love that. Yeah, that's great advice. All right. So that's a perfect place for us to close out. We'll put all the ways that our listeners can learn more about you and the work that you do in the show notes. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, Jaime. It's been a blast talking with you. Keep kicking ass and happy adventuring.
Thank you so much.
My goal as a business strategy and action coach, and why I ultimately created this podcast, is to inspire you to take massive action towards your own dreams and goals. So if you're enjoying this podcast and you find the content valuable, like, subscribe, or follow me wherever you get your podcasts. And I always love hearing from my listeners, so please leave a review. And until next time, be sure to live life on your terms. And if you're not, make a plan and make it happen, my friend. Adventure awaits. Thanks for listening.